Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we will be discussing 4 things that Disney Plus cannot touch in the new Percy Jackson adaptation. Number 1 is diversity and representation. Rick Riordan is known for including a lot of diversity in his characters all throughout the books. And although in his first series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, there is not as much representation and diversity, there will be in the books to come. Also, if we get a Camp Half-Blood filled with only white campers, I will be furious because the gods mingle with any kind of mortal in the US, so it would not make sense if all of the campers were white. Besides representation for people of color, there's also some characters that belong to the LGBTQI+ collective, and their stories are very important, if not in the first series, then in later books. I know a lot of people are worried about that kind of representation because it is Disney, but in some of its latest shows, Disney Plus has been known to include LGBTQ+ representation, included but not limited to High School Musical, the musical, the series. That being said, if they do not include any kind of representation or diversity, the fans will riot. Percy Jackson's series follows 3 kids while they go on an epic quest. So if there's an epic quest, there has to be epic action, which is why Disney Plus has to pay special attention to how the fights are choreographed, because we are supposed to believe that these kids, these teenagers, know how to fight using swords, knives, bows and arrows, and also they have to sell Percy's powers because they're very central to the story. And speaking of Percy's powers, they could be visually similar to waterbending in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is also getting a new adaptation later this year on Netflix. So it'll be curious to see if these 2 shows look alike visually, if their special effects have anything to do with one another. So when both of them come out, we'll have to see. And if they'll try to go for different styles in order to differentiate the 2 shows visually. All in all, action is very important in Percy Jackson. There's always an epic fight scene in all of the books and more than once. So, number 1, we need actors, or at least stunt doubles, who can sell a good performance. And number 2, we desperately need good special effects. We don't want an Avatar: The Last Airbender for the buckle. Please. Give us good special effects. Number 3 is their lightheartedness and their humor, which, as we all know, was missing in the movie adaptation. So a lot of the humor comes with the chapter titles, and it would be fun to see them incorporated as episode titles. Also, a lot of the humor comes from Percy inner dialogue, so they could try to incorporate some narration, at least at the beginning of the episodes. Speaking of narration, if the first episode of the series doesn't start with Percy saying, "Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood," I'll be honestly devastated. But if they don't want narration, there are other ways to include Percy's humor, such as incorporating the humor into their normal dialogue. All in all, it is very important to include Percy's and Rick Riordan's humor. Rick Riordan has a very specific humor, and it's what gives this series its heart. I read this series for the first time when I was in 9th grade, and I could not stop laughing. And that's happened to me every single time I've reread it. So the show has to be funny. It just has to be. Last but not least, the series has to deal with serious or dark subject matter, because although Percy Jackson is a middle grade series, it deals with darker subject matter than you would imagine. It deals with things from running away because you feel unsafe in your own house, with absentee parents, with abusive or toxic relationships, or actual character deaths. And this mixed in with the lightheartedness is what makes Percy Jackson work so well. Because it is a middle grade series, but it never dumps down the content for its readers. I think Rick Riordan is the master of striking the perfect balance between lighthearted and treating dark subject matter, which is also important for young readers to know about. And I think Rick has always done a good job at trusting his audience and not dumbing down his content. So there you have it. Those are 4 things that Disney Plus cannot touch in the new Percy Jackson live-action adaptation, because if they do, it'll simply not be a good Percy Jackson adaptation. So I hope you liked this video, and please leave a comment down below if you have any more thoughts on what Disney Plus cannot touch in the new adaptation.